Hi everyone, I'm Wendy, and today I have a What I Eat in a Day video, Dr. Greger style. When I first went plant-based, I personally found tools like the Daily Dozen to be really useful. The Daily Dozen comes from Dr. Greger's book, How Not to Die, and it's a list of foods and other items to try and fit into your daily diet. For a lot of people, this can become overwhelming, but instead of thinking of it as something you have to check off everything every single day, I like to think of it as a way to help you crowd out the junk. Because if you hit everything on the Daily Dozen, you're certainly less likely to binge on junk food. When I first went plant-based and I wasn't really sure what to eat at every meal, I found the Daily Dozen to be really helpful to give me ideas. So that's what I hope to show you today, how to use it as a tool to periodically check in on your diet. And as usual, I'll show you what I'm up to today, including my meals, exercise, and other activities. The first thing I do every morning is grab some water. This cup that I use is about 20 ounces, and I usually fill it up 3 or 4 times throughout the day. So I will easily check off the beverage portion of the Daily Dozen, which recommends a total of 60 ounces. Then I'm all out of batch cooked oatmeal, so I need to cook some fresh today. And in honor of following the Daily Dozen, I'll be making oat groats instead of my usual steel-cut oats. I've been wanting to start eating oat groats because, obviously, oats in their whole intact form is the healthiest version. I usually just go with steel-cut oats because I can easily get it in bulk locally. But oat groats are also easily available online. So I'm basically making this like I make my steel-cut oats, just with a slightly different proportion of water. I have 2 cups of oats along with 3½ cups of water. I'm also adding a bag of frozen riced cauliflower, and I find that I need to let this defrost a little bit before cooking it in the Instant Pot with my oats, otherwise sometimes I get the burn warning in my Instant Pot. I'll cook that at high pressure for 20 minutes and then let it rest for another 40 minutes or so to fully cook. Meanwhile, I'll do my morning yoga. Exercise is also on the Daily Dozen, but I'm not actually counting my yoga because I'm doing pretty gentle yoga. And the exercise portion of the Daily Dozen calls for 40 minutes of vigorous activity or 90 minutes of moderate activity. In general, I recommend trying not to get hung up on the exact amounts. The Daily Dozen was created based on what the most up-to-date science shows is the optimal amount. But I recommend using this checkbox just to remind you to get some kind of movement into your day. Of course, a little bit of exercise is better than none. So in addition to my morning yoga, I plan to do a more vigorous workout later today. After that, I made a smoothie while my oats finished cooking. In my smoothie, I'll be able to check off several of the Daily Dozen all at once. I'm using more than 2 cups of leafy greens, so I can check off both leafy green boxes. Then I'll be using a combination of frozen pineapple and mango in this smoothie for one of my fruit servings. I can also check off spices because I add amla, turmeric, ginger, and black pepper to my smoothies. I'll blend that up with water and then finish up my oats. To the whole batch of oats, I'm mixing in 1 can of pumpkin along with some pumpkin pie spice. This batch should last me about 4 days, so I keep it in the fridge, and every morning I scoop out a portion, then I'll mix in some blueberries and finally top it off with some ground flaxseed. So with my oatmeal, I can check off 1 whole grain serving, another serving of fruit, my serving of cruciferous because of the riced cauliflower, and technically I could also probably check off another fruit or vegetable depending on what you consider pumpkin. But I'll just call that extra today. Of course, I added my flaxseed, so that gets checked off as well. With my breakfast alone, I'm already well on my way to completing the Daily Dozen. As you can see, when all you eat are whole plant foods, it's a breeze following the Daily Dozen. I also want to mention that while it's technically not one of the dozen, at the bottom of the checklist it mentions vitamins B12 and D. I take B12 about every other day, and I take vitamin D every day, especially if I'm not getting out in the sun. Today is Saturday, so I'm off work, which gives me time to do a little bit of recipe testing after breakfast. A while back, I shared a basic granola bar video, and I'm planning to make another one with a few different granola bar flavors. So I'm working on developing one of those today. Then I also have some basil left over from my CSA box that I need to use up. I think I'll just blend it up with some white beans, garlic, nutritional yeast, a little bit of red wine vinegar, and a date to make a creamy basil salad dressing. After that, I'll clean up my kitchen and throw my lunch together. For lunch, I'm having one of my favorite quick meals. I'm warming up some frozen bell peppers, a cube of frozen garlic, tri-blend beans, and this pre-cooked quinoa. Then after it's cooked, I stirred in some salsa and I'm topping it with some of these homemade pickled peppers. I show how I make these in an old video, which I'll link to here. Along with that, I'm having a small side salad with some of that basil dressing I just made, and also a little bit of watermelon. So let's see where we're at on the Daily Dozen. I already got my leafy greens in my smoothie this morning, but the Daily Dozen also specifies having 2 other vegetables that are not leafy greens. So I'm checking off 1 box for the cucumbers, celery, peppers, and tomatoes in my salad. Yes, cucumbers and tomatoes are technically fruit, but I'm going to call that a vegetable. I also threw some hemp seeds on the salad, so I'm going to check off the nuts and seeds category. I can check off another whole grain from the quinoa, a bean serving from the tri-blend mix, and another fruit serving with my watermelon. So I'm well on my way with the food, and this afternoon it's time to work on the exercise. I decided to do a dance workout today. This is one that I randomly found at the beginning of the pandemic when we all had to stay home, and I really enjoyed it, so I thought I would try it again. It's about 35 minutes long, and I think it'll be quite intense for me because I haven't been doing really intense workouts for a while. So I'm gonna go ahead and check off exercise from the list. Saturday is also the day that I publish new videos on YouTube. So this afternoon, I'm taking some time to check my new video and reply to any comments. Then for dinner, I'm making another one of my favorite easy meals. It's my Instant Pot curry. I make some kind of version of this pretty frequently, and I've shared several different versions in the past. Today, I'm doing a cup of red lentils and a cup of yellow split peas, a bag of frozen mirepoix blend, which is a mix of carrot, celery, and onion, and a bag of frozen butternut squash. Normally, I also add a bag of frozen riced cauliflower, but I'm going to skip that since I already had some with my oatmeal today. Then I add some spices and water and a can of no salt added tomatoes. I'll add a link below to my original version of this if you want the written recipe. I'm also going to steam some broccoli to eat along with that. I have a leftover portion of black rice that I pulled out of the freezer, and I'm going to have some grapes with it as well. This meal should finish off the Daily Dozen. Broccoli is cruciferous, but we already checked that off, so we'll count this as my other vegetable. The black rice rounds out the whole grain servings, the grapes finish the fruit category, and I'm counting the split peas and lentils for the bean category. So that's everything. As you can see, the Daily Dozen doesn't have to be stressful when you're eating a varied whole food plant-based diet. If you're new to a plant-based diet, it can be a great way to make sure you're eating a well-balanced diet. Or if you're an old pro at eating this way, it can be a useful tool every once in a while to help you change things up if you've gotten in a rut. I hope you enjoyed seeing my interpretation of the Daily Dozen, and if you like this style of video, you can check out this playlist where I follow different versions of a plant-based diet like the Starch Solution, Nutritarian, Fiber Fueled, and more. And that's about it for me today. Time to curl up with a good book and relax before bed. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time.